Okay, these notes are dimensional analysis. Okay, dimensional analysis is a way to change between units or change from one thing to another using conversion factors. Okay, and I will go through what conversion factors are. In order to do dimensional analysis, you will need to find a conversion factor that you can use to convert. The conversion factor must be an equivalent measure between the two units, with one of the measurements being 1. Okay, here are some common conversion factors. Now, everybody knows that there's 12 inches in a foot, there's 36 inches in a yard, 3 feet in a yard. 1 year has 365 days. So these are just some of the common ones that we're going to use a lot of. I'm going to add 2 more. So this one is, we have 1 ounce equals, so I guess this would be a liquid ounce, 29.6 milliliters. And 1 deciliter. Now we're going to get into all the prefixes and stuff in the metric system the next one. So just know that ml is milliliters, and I'll put that in here. Oh, that's an S. And then DL is deciliters. But as I said, we'll get more into that with the next video. And this is 20.3 teaspoons. Okay, I guess in some of the examples we'll be using those. And there are tons of different conversion factors, and you can look them up on the internet. So when we get into some of the actual conversions for classwork tomorrow, you may have to look up some. They may be listed, they may not be listed. And sometimes you can just do a 2 or a 3-step conversion instead of a 1-step conversion if you don't have a way of looking stuff up. So in these notes, I'm going to be going through a 1-step conversion, and then I'll be going over 2-step conversions in case you have to do a 2 or even a 3-step conversion. And it's pretty easy. You just have to have more than one conversion factor. Okay, let's go on. Okay, our first example is how many inches in 78 centimeters. Well, the first thing you want to do is find your conversion factor. See if you can find a conversion factor between centimeters and inches. And we know that 1 inch, so I'm going to write it down, 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Okay, now the way I do conversions with dimensional analysis is I use something called a picket fence. The book and other sources, and if you look at other videos, they may show you a little bit different way. I just like the picket fence because it keeps everything organized. If the picket fence confuses you, let me know and maybe put yourself in wrap and I can show you a different way. Or you can look up videos. There's tons of videos out there on dimensional analysis. So you don't have to do everything my way. As long as you can show me the work and show how the units cancel, that's all I ask. That's all you need to do. Okay, so let's do this one. So my picket fence, we're going to write, it kind of looks like a picket fence. If you were to put more than one line down, those are pickets in a fence. Okay, now when we're doing most conversions, if it's only one thing we're converting, if it's not a rate, like sometimes you might convert kilometers per hour into meters per second. When you do that, you use both sides of the left one. If there's only one thing, like we hit that, like here, we have 78 centimeters. But there's nothing else. It's not like it's 78 centimeters per mile or 78 centimeters per hour or whatever, okay? So we're going to leave this one, I'm just going to say we're going to leave this one blank. So this space is only if we have, and I will show you that in these, we'll go over one of those in these notes so you can see one where you're going to use both of them. But right now we're leaving it blank because there is only one thing. We're converting 78 centimeters. That's it. Nothing else. Now, here's our conversion factor. We have to put one thing on top and one thing on bottom. So before we decide what to do, just remember, centimeters divided by centimeters, they cross out and equals 1. So if you remember in math, if you were doing 3x equals 15 and you divided both sides by 3, those 3's crossed out because they became 1. So something divided by something or by the same thing is 1. And that's the preface we're using here. That's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So in a picket fence, if you have, let me use different colors. This one, we'll put A and B and C down here. If it's next to each other, it's A times B. And then if you have a C down here, and this will be divided by C, okay? So your times is right here, and your divided by bar is there. And that's what we're going to be using with this. So let me erase that so I don't confuse you. Actually, I think I'll put the times and the divide by on here just so that you can see it. So there's our times, okay? So I'm going to use blue for my conversion factor. Now, if I put 2.54 centimeters here and 1 inch here, so let's just not worry about numbers. Let's look at the units. I'm going to be doing centimeters times centimeters divided by inches. None of the units cancel out, right? You're looking at your unit, your final unit is centimeters squared divided by inches. Not what we want, okay? That is not what we want. So let me put this up again. So we're going to rewrite this. Okay, so we got 78 centimeters. So I'm going to put my 2.54 centimeters at the bottom with 1 inch at the top. Now, I'm not going to write the units to the right of this. I'm only going to put the numbers. But my units, right now, I can see that centimeters divided by centimeters. So the rule of thumb with the picket fence is if it's diagonal, means you have one on top and one on bottom, they cancel each other out. So if you have a centimeters on top, centimeters on bottom, you're canceling it out. And you're left with inches. So now this is going to be 78 divided by 2.54. And by the way, 78 times 1 is 78. I think you guys know that. Okay. And then you get, now, when we get the answer to this, we get 30, oops, it came off. Okay. 30.7086 blah, blah, 6, blah, 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 blah. Okay. It's a whole huge long number. This is where significant digits come into play. Now, when we're talking significant digits, when we're doing dimensional analysis or calculations like this, where there's a conversion factor and we're just given 2.54 centimeters per inch, your answer is going to be, once again, we're dividing and multiplying. We have to go with the lowest number of sig figs. But my rule of thumb and the way I'm going to teach it to you is you look at the measurement itself. So if we look at the measurement, it's 78. 78 has 2 sig figs. So there's 2 sig figs here. So our answer should have 2 sig figs. Well, here's our 2, but then we have to look at here. So if we do that, let me put this up. Okay, so our answer should be 31 inches. Okay. Now, if on a quiz or a test, well, the test, you'd still get points off too, but a quiz, if you were to put 30.7 centimeters, I would probably count off maybe half a point, maybe not even, depending. But because you got your significant figures wrong. So you really, really need to make sure that you know you understand significant digits, because all of these answers are going to have the proper number of sig figs. Okay, let's go for example 2. How many seconds in 3.25 hours? Now, this can be done a couple of ways. One of them is a one-step conversion. If you know how many hours there are, how many seconds there are in 1 hour, then you can do it that way. So I'm actually going to do this one 2 different ways, because there's a 1-step and a 2-step. So let's do the 1-step first, just because I know that there are 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. So we're going to do our picket fence. We're going to put our 3.25 hours. Now remember, in a picket fence, this one, the first box here, I'll just circle it in red. This first box is always this number. It's whatever number you're given, whatever you're starting with before you do the conversion, that goes in that box always. So don't put it in another box. Don't put the conversion factor first. Conversion factor does not go first. This goes in the right two boxes. And that's where sometimes students get mixed up. They put the conversion factor first, and then they put the 3.25 hours where it would still cross off, but then it's wrong because it's sometimes 1 over 3.25 hours. So we don't want to do it like that. Make sure that this goes in the first box. Okay, so that's always the number you're given, what you're starting out with. So I'm going to put starting. So whatever you're starting with goes there. And then the conversion factor goes there. Okay. I'm going to erase this because it's going to be in my way. Okay. So now we have 3,600 seconds and we have 1 hour. So this one, I'm going to put the 1 hour on bottom and the 3,600 seconds on top. And I did that because I already have hours on top. So I'm going to put hours on bottom so they cancel out. And I'm going to do the math. And then I get 11,700 seconds. Now, are my sig figs correct? Well, if you remember the rules of sig figs, if there's no decimal point, you find the last number and count your way left. So yes, it is correct. Now, if this was, let's say it was 11,710 seconds, then you'd have to put it into scientific notation in order to make sure you had the correct number of sig figs. So let's just do that, just for practice. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.17 times 10 to the 4th seconds. And that way I can make sure I stick with my 3 sig figs, because if you remember with significant digits in scientific notation, the number that goes with the times 10, always every single number there is significant. So you are writing the number of sig figs you want in your answer. Okay, so let's try this doing a 2-step conversion, since we know what hours and seconds and I don't have to look anything up. Okay, so let me move this up a little bit. So this time our conversion factors are 1 hour is 60 minutes and 1 minute is 60 seconds. So we're going to start here and we're going to put our, hang on a second, I forgot what it was. No, 3.25 hours. 3.25 hours. So we have to choose which one we're going to do next. So I'm just going to put a line here. Which one we're going to do first and which one we're going to do second. Well, we're going to do the one with the hours in it first, which is this one. So I'm going to put 1 hour is 60 minutes. Okay, we got that one down. Now we have minutes. So now we're going to choose the one with minutes. So we're going to do this one second. So 1 minute is 60 seconds. Now our minutes cross out, and you make sure everything's crossed out. So the best thing to do is cross out your units as you go, and that way you know you're not screwing up. So now it's going to be 3.25 times 60 times 60, which is again 11,700 seconds. Okay. So it's 1 or 2 steps depending on which one you want to do. Okay, so how many centimeters in 8.68 feet? This one also can be done with 2 steps or 1 step. You can look up the conversion factor and find out how many centimeters are in a foot, or you can just do 2 steps because we already know how many centimeters are in an inch and we know how many inches are in a foot. So that's what we're going to do. So let's see. Let me write down my conversion factor. So I know that 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. And I also know there's 12 inches in 1 foot. Okay. So we're going to start out with 8.68 feet. Now I'm going to choose the ones with foot in it, which is this one. So 1 foot and 12 inches. Okay. So this way my feet cancel out. Now I'll do this one, the inches and the centimeters. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. Inches cancel. Now we're going to do the multiplication. So we're going to take 8.68 times 12 times 2.54. And we get, when we do the math, 264.5664. Whoops, why did I do that? 264.5664. Now, as I said, we're going to use the measurement as far as how many significant digits instead of worrying about conversion factors. Because with 12, there's only 2, but our measurement is actually 3. So we're going to stick with the 3. Okay. So we want 3 sig figs, which is here. And this tells me I have to round. So it's 265 centimeters are in 8.68 feet. Okay, so this is how many hours in 1.75 years. Now, you can do 2 steps because we know 365 days are in 1 year and 24 hours are in 1 day. Or you can just multiply the 24 times 365 and you get 8760 hours in 1 year. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I like to do 1 step whenever possible. It just makes it a little bit easier. But you do you. As long as you show the work, that's all I ask. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 year at the bottom because I need my years to cancel out. And then I want 8760 hours on top. And then when I multiply that, I get 15,330 hours. Now, I need to have 3 sig figs. Oh, that's not. Hang on a second. Before we do that, I forgot my screen cuts off a little bit. We need 3 sig figs. This is 4. So we have to convert this into scientific notation. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 1 point. Now, remember, I need 3 sig figs. 1, 2, 3. So I need 1.53. Now, this one tells me if I have to round or stay the same, and I stay the same. So it's times 10 to the 4th hours. Okay, and that way we're seeing with our significant digits. If you just tell me 15,330, I'm going to take off a half a point saying significant digits. Okay, so just remember, if the number itself doesn't have a decimal in it, put the decimal in it, but you can turn it into scientific notation in order to have the right number of sig figs, especially when you have a whole number like that. Okay. Okay, this is the last one. How many teaspoons in 0.183 deciliters? Okay, so we're going to start. We're going to figure out the conversion factor, which is the 1DL. This is one of the ones I gave you in the beginning of this video. 20.3 teaspoons. So we're going to put 0.183 deciliters. Now, 1 deciliter goes on bottom and 20.3 teaspoons on top. And we get, when we do that math, let's see, we get 0.183 times 20.3, and we get 3.4 0.7149. But the problem is we need 3 sig figs. So right here. And this tells me what to do. Don't need to round, so we have 3.71 teaspoons. Okay, so for the next one, we're actually going to try a rate. And that's where we're going to use both sides of, or the top and the bottom of the picket fence. Okay, this next example, we're going to convert 30.3 meters per second to kilometers per hour. Once again, you would probably have to look up some of the conversion factors because I really don't think I have them on that conversion sheet or on the beginning with the conversions in there. So you just would have to look up the conversion factors. If we're doing a quiz or something like that, and I don't allow you on the internet, I will give you all the pertinent conversion factors. So you don't have to worry about it. But for this one, we'll look them up, or at least if we know them, we'll use them. Okay, so we're going to start with our picket fence. And I don't know if there's 1 or 2. Well, I do, but we're going to pretend like we don't know if there's 1 or 2. So we're just going to start with 30.3. Now, we don't put meters per second in here. What meters per second means is I'm going to go 30.3 meters in 1 second. So there are 2 conversions we're doing here. We're going to convert meters to kilometers and seconds to hours. Okay? So my conversion factors, in fact, I should have left room for it, but let me erase this. But that's what we're doing. So we got to figure out conversion factors so that I know that there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. And I also know there's 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. So those are the 2 conversion factors we're going to use. And it doesn't matter which one we do first or which one we do second, as long as we put them in the right spot. Because in the end, kilometers have to be on top, hours have to be on bottom. So we're going to do this, since I've written the first one first, we're going to do this one first. So we're going to put our 1,000 meters at the bottom and our 1 kilometer at the top. That way we can get rid of the meters. Okay. Now we're going to do a second one, and we're going to look at the seconds this time. So we're going to put 3,600 seconds on top and 1 hour on bottom. And that way our seconds cancel. So do you see how that goes? Both the meters and the seconds have to be crossed out. Now, not crossed out, I have kilometers on top and hours on bottom. So that means I did it right. So now we're going to take our calculator. Now this is a little different. This is going to be 30.3 times 3,600. And then we're going to divide it by 1,000. Okay. So 30.3 times 3,600 divided by 1,000 is 109.08 kilometers per hour. Now, sig figs, because this is not our final answer. Oops. Oh, well, here, hang on. I got too far over on here. I'm just going to put kph, which stands for kilometers per hour. Okay, so sig fig wise, we've got to worry about how many sig figs. Let's look. Well, we've got 3 here. Okay, so our answer can only have 3. So we look to here. Oh, don't erase that. So it's 109 kilometers per hour. We're going pretty fast, actually. We could also, I could have done it where we were taking kilometers per hour and trying to do miles per hour. In fact, let's do that one. So you can see where sometimes you have 2 numbers, but one of them you're not going to convert. Okay, so this one says convert 65.0 miles per hour to kilometers per hour. Now, when you're driving a car, and you guys will learn this once you start driving, or if you're already driving, your speedometer, there's 2 numbers. There's 2 sets of numbers. There's the big set, which is the miles per hour, and a lot of times underneath it is a little set, which is the kilometers per hour. So your car kind of converts it for you. So if you go up to Canada, because they drive kilometers per hour, not miles per hour, you kind of need to look at those numbers. So we're going to show you a conversion on how to do it. So what if your car doesn't, and you need to make sure that you don't go above 100 kilometers per hour, which is usually the speed limit in Canada. So you might have to do some calculations. So let's do that. Okay, so we're going to put 65.0 miles on top, and we're going to put 1 hour because it means we're going 65.0 miles in 1 hour. Now, this is hours here and hours here. So we don't need to convert the time aspect of this rate. We only need to convert the miles to the kilometers. And then if you look at the list of some common conversion factors, I gave you the one that has kilometers and miles. So 1 mile, kilometers. So that's what we're going to use. So we're going to put 1 mile here, and we're going to put 1.61 kilometers. And we're just crossing off the miles, which is going to leave us with kilometers per hour. We don't need to touch that at all because your rate also has hours in it. It's not like I'm asking kilometers per second or kilometers per minute. So, I mean, it gets kind of confusing when you're like, oh, there's 2 things to convert, but there's really not. There's only 1 thing. So now we're going to take 65 times 1.61, and we get 104.65 kilometers per hour. Now, once again, we have 3 sig figs. So we're going to have this, but this tells us to round up. So it's 105 kilometers per hour. So if we were in Canada, we'd be speeding. So basically the speed limit, most of the places in Canada, the speed limit's just below 65. In fact, it is, well, I don't know what it is. I'd have to look, but it's about probably 60, maybe 63, 62, something, or 62 and a half, something like that. So if you go 60 miles per hour in Canada where it says 100, you're just under the speed limit and you're safe. So just a little FYI. But that's it. So tomorrow we'll do some practice problems on this. See ya. Bye.